Joining us now, the former CEO of the Port of Baltimore, William Doyle. He also served as a U.S. Federal Maritime Commissioner and is currently the CEO of the Dredging Contractors of America. Thank you, sir, for your time this morning on this. As we've been listening to this hearing, they haven't gotten to many revelations yet. They're just starting things out. But what are you hoping to hear about this tragic case?
Well, it's safety. A lot of the bridges and infrastructure in the United States is old. And the infrastructure that we see in and around Baltimore with the Francis Scott Key Bridge, and again, the Bay Bridge, they're old pieces of infrastructure. What I'd like to see is the pier protection systems, which we're discussing right now, on all bridges that are updated. We have those protection systems. And also that we have a good regime over the foreign flag ships that come into the United States to make sure that those ships are well maintained, up to date, and perhaps more Coast Guard inspectors should go on ships coming into the United States to see about the safety measures and mechanisms of the machinery.
Pier protection systems, what does that mean?
Well, I mean, if you look at a lot of the bridges that you have right now that were basically built in the 50s and 60s, they don't have what's called dolphins or bumper systems on the stanchions that are usually in the channel, definitely in the water. They're just stanchions. So, you could build, for lack of a better term, a system, a bulbous system, pier protection system that the ship would hit first before it actually hit the stanchion and knock the bridge down. And that's all, newer technology, newer engineering that we'll see on definitely the FSK bridge when it's rebuilt. And that would help, with measures of bringing bridges down due to an lesion or collision from a major container or cargo carrier.
Understood. So a bumper system, essentially, to stop it from getting to that point. How about what was happening on that single ship? I mean, without power to be able to drift into the bridge and take it out in less than a minute, communication-wise, what should we see in terms of safety measures on board the ship and with those on land?
Well, there's a couple of things that I would say there. I think that the NTSB and the U.S. Coast Guard will take a hard look at whether or not boats should be alongside the vessel. Now, if tugboats were still alongside that vessel, it wouldn't have gone down. The tugboats would have been able to prevent that ship from going into the stanchion. I'm fully confident that the tugboats in and around the Patapsco River, Chesapeake Bay, those companies would have been able to handle that. Now, with respect to on board the ship, I still want to give a shout out to the Maryland Pilots Association, because the pilots that were on board, they were the warning system. They were the ones that radioed ahead to the bridge and the police that were there to close that bridge down because they were losing control of the ship. Imagine what would have happened if he was not able to radio ahead to the bridge to close it down with all the vehicles that would be crossing. So on a communication standpoint, how do we get there on the communication? I think, that cooperation between the vessel and the outside safety organizations, the police, Coast Guard, that will work. And I think that at the end of the day, though, we're going to see that this was an engineering fault, a maintenance fault on board the ship. And that's going to need to be checked out. From what I've seen and what I've read from the NTSB preliminary reports, it was an electrical failure. And it wasn't the first time it was an electrical failure. So from a communication standpoint, if you have failures in the port, if you have failures of engineering machinery and generators, you should communicate that. Who do you communicate it to so that ship does not move until it's fixed?
Yeah, some costly lessons learned. And I appreciate you bringing up the tug, because that was one question I had. Why wasn't there a tug? Is that customary?
It depends on the port. It really does depend on the port. It depends on the weather conditions. It depends on the captain of the port and what the captain of the port. And when I say the captain of the port is the U.S. Coast Guard. So, there are different areas around the country where tugs are alongside the ship until it comes into the port, all the way into the dock, and when it exits the port, when it leaves. In this instance, the vessel had tugs that would bring it up to Patapsco, and then bringing it out the way that Baltimore works for some ships, this ship included, is the tugboat would come alongside the vessel, pull the vessel off the dock, spin it around into the channel, and then the tugboats would leave, and the ship and the pilot would transit the vessel back out through the channel and under the Francis Scott Key Bridge. We'll see if that changes. I'm not sure yet.
All right. Well, we're listening intently this morning. William Doyle, sir, thank you for your time.